So not all who appear like them qualify to be them. Not all who speak English are white men. Even there are white men who can't speak the English I speak. Why? Many. I don't know. By color. There are those who are brown than me. When they are living in those nations that are not black, nations like Africa, when they cannot even pronounce how are you in the morning. But when they are white, but because we think all white things are English people, we don't differentiate. Even Moses gets trouble when you are saying pray for United Kingdom, he prays for America. Thinking they are one when they are not even one day. So I prayed for the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. Never try the land policy again. A message to Uganda. A message to what? May there be never another eviction of children of God in this land. So, see how I have spoken it. See how I have spoken it. Not in a prayer, in a commandments. In a command. But because they don't listen, you will be there and you hear that they have decided to do it again in massacre and the people will be cut. And they say, no, now it is no longer possible. No longer. What is important? Why not listen to God? That you cannot evict a person from his land. He has lived for 90 years. And you think you are putting order in society. There are these drunkards who are going to do it in the town here. There are some drunkards who carry guns. Who carry what? Guns. Who will be breaking buildings of people broad day. But when time reaches, others will miss burials. Others will miss where to bury them. So it is better to understand what God is saying every moment, and it counts. Why do we come before God? So that we may know how happy He is that day. But when I see the sun rising and I see the moon at night, I know that that day is over. But what He says matters at every situation. Is the parable of Uganda. Is the parable of Uganda. You cannot understand them. So I was praying for Uganda. To run from how dangerous it is. If they cannot run from UK, where a ruling party became the seventh on the ballot paper. Shaking every prime minister in that land. Shaking what? Father save him, for he never expected such a thing to happen during his time. There are things, it is like Museveni today, he doesn't expect the danger to find him on the sea. But it's coming. It is what? It is coming for him. So, they cannot run from you.
Well, we have a resignation. We'll go straight into this breaking news. Keir Starmer quit today, quit about 20 minutes ago, like this.
I will resign as leader of the Labour Party. I have spoken to His Majesty the King this morning to inform him of my decision.
This is incredible. I mean, it's just 2 years ago that Keir Starmer won a massive election victory. It was just incredible that it's just gone, and he's gone with it. And this really does turn Britain into the Italy of the North, about to get its 7th Prime Minister now in just 10 years. It's as if Britain is now ungovernable, too divided, getting poorer. And the job, of course, was just too hard for Starmer, in particular, a former human rights lawyer and Crown prosecution boss who broke down at the end of his speech outside his Downing Street home.
I shall spend more time on the most important job, being the best husband I can to my fantastic wife, Vic, who has been a rock by my side through good times and bad, and being the best dad I can to my beautiful children, who are my pride and my joy. Thank you very much.
How often do you see it? So many leaders, they show their best sides or the more human sides right at the end when it's too late. But this is almost Shakespearean. I mean, here is a man who was brought down as much by his own weaknesses as by the challenges of this torn Britain. Starmer threw away one of the biggest wins Labor has had by being weak, by being woke, by being too green, and above all for what US President Donald Trump posted yesterday when he tipped this resignation. He said Keir Starmer will resign as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. He failed badly on two very important subjects: immigration and energy. Open North Sea oil. I wish him well, as if. Starmer's poll numbers have been catastrophic for quite a while, but the end for him has come with a massive win in a by-election on the weekend. A former Manchester Mayor, Andy Burnham, is now moving back to Parliament to challenge Starmer for the leadership.
We've been on a path for 40 years that simply hasn't worked for people and places in this part of the world. And this now is the change moment. We have an opportunity to turn the tide, to make the country feel like it's working again.
Joining me from London is our Monday regular Talk TV presenter, Samara Gill. Samara, I mean, you know, you tipped this before yourself. But tell us about this Andy Burnham and why so many Labor MPs think he's God's gift to the Labor Party.
Yeah, it's a good question. I actually just spent the sort of last part of the week with Andy Burnham and his team, kind of following him around Makerfield and the country just to see what type of person this Prime Minister in waiting now is. And I've got to say, I was quite surprised. He's very likable. He's very charismatic. A lot of his constituency really like what he's done for Greater Manchester and the way that he's been able to actually nationalise things, but quite successfully. I spoke to some local residents who, you know, had had their lives changed by the way that he was able to get them off benefits and into work through public bus opportunities as bus drivers and different things like that. But with all that being said, it's easy to be mayor. It's easy to give out the government's money and cut ribbons. He is somewhat untested and untried as a political candidate. And yes, he's gone for the leadership 2 times before, once in 2010 and another time in 2015, unsuccessfully losing to Jeremy Corbyn. So clearly 3rd time lucky for Andy Burnham. I do believe it will be some sort of coronation for him and potentially not a leadership contest.
I suspect you're right. Now, he's held high office in Westminster, in the Parliament there. But here's, and people could see even from that small grab I showed, that this is a man who can talk, you know, directly. It's not wooden like Starmer was. I think he can relate that way. But well, there you go. But here's the thing, Samara, the curiosity, though. I mean, Labor's actually getting smashed from the right by Nigel Farage's anti-immigration reform party. So why do Labor MPs think the answer is getting a leader even more left-wing than Starmer?
It's a really good question, and it goes back to why Keir Starmer was elected in the first place, which was on a mandate of change, which he absolutely didn't deliver. And my jaw was on the floor when he was reeling off during that speech he just made about how he's improved defence, with the defence secretary resigning last week, how he stopped the boats. There's been over 70,000 illegal migrants crossing the channel under his watch. Woefully, one woman died over the weekend in the channel because of government incompetence. He hasn't stopped any of the trafficking gangs, any of the dark and murky waters, and the economy. The economy has completely tanked because of the left-wing policies of Rachel Reeves, who I think will also be out the door alongside Keir Starmer. But I think the reason that Andy Burnham is so popular and why he'll probably be able to hopefully group together is because when you look at the election that happened over the weekend in Makerfield, he was actually able to garner together a Lib-Lab Green alliance. So what I mean by that is our Liberal Democrat Party and our Greens voted tactically for Andy Burnham, and he was able to unite them all in one front. And that's something that the right wing has had a real problem with. Farage has been basically absolutely come at by Restore, which is Rupert Lowe's party, and that's another right-wing party with very similar sort of policies, although much further to the right, in my view. And that's been a big problem. The right doesn't tend to actually mobilise and group together like the left does, and I foresee that as a big issue in the future, Andrew.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. But it's also interesting that even together, if you could have added them up, but Britain doesn't have a preferential voting system, the Restore and Reform votes were still way under what Andy Burnham actually ended up getting. It was a massive win, which would give Labor some hope that maybe he can restore their mojo back in London. It was interesting to hear our Prime Minister Anthony Albanese yesterday very allergic to this idea of a Prime Minister being replaced if his Labor Party was unpopular and if it was behind an anti-immigration party. It's like he felt someone was walking on his grave. Here he is.
Can you deal with a Prime Minister Burnham in the UK if that's how it unfolds?
Well, we'll deal with whoever is elected with our partners, but I must say that the history of just changing leaders is not a positive one.
So you'd urge stability from that?
I think stability is a good thing.
Well, Keir Starmer tried to argue that point. He lost. Why didn't that argument work over there?
Yeah, and Albanese over there is talking about stability for his job, not stability for the country, in my opinion. And that's also what Keir Starmer was really talking about. He goes, oh, there's the Iran war, then there's this, then there's that. We can't have a leadership change. It would destabilise the country. Well, the issue was that the problem was Starmer all along. And I think that he was the one who was actually, with his chaotic decision-making, the way that he couldn't stick to one side, you know, we had 18 U-turns and 30 government resets over the past 18 months. That's what I call chaos, and that's not what I call stability. So when he talks about, oh, we need one leader all the way through, this is a very communist, socialist type of line that they try and use to dupe the public into thinking that sticking with the same person and doing the same thing wouldn't lead to insanity. Well, it actually was for the country, and I think it's good riddance to Starmer. It really is. I think people want something different, whether elected or not at this point. That's the level of desperation I think the United Kingdom has come to.
Well, it was the French Sun King who first said, the state is me, and I think Keir Starmer just proved it's not. Samara Gill, thank you so much indeed for your time.